Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of People Pleaser. That's right. From a Blanket Fort recording studio in a one-bedroom apartment. This is People Pleaser. I know that these days on YouTube, everything's looking kind of the same. Like, my YouTube exclusive videos don't look or feel all that different from the podcast, but they are, sort of. The podcast is just looser, maybe a little less structured. We're here with a live studio audience on TikTok. We got about 85 to 100 people coming in and out of the studio audience. Somebody just said that they like my hair, and I was saying, thanks, I don't know how I feel about my hair right now, but I was just in Utah for 3 weeks, and the problem is every single teenager in Utah has a mullet right now, and it really made me hate it. I was like, I can't have the same haircut as all of these kids. I just can't. I think I have to cut it. I will be 37 in January. I don't know. I do style my hair differently than the teenagers do. Every single teenager in Utah does have a mullet, but they do the like bangs forward thing where they like, I don't think my hair will do it. It looks terrible when I try to do it, and I think it looks terrible on them too. It did make me remember though, I spent so much more time getting ready, like on my hair and on my face when I was a teenager than I do as an adult man. I actually think that like that whole gap between how long it takes men to get ready and how long it takes women to get ready is closer in the teenage years. My skin regimen was on because I had terrible cystic acne. So I was doing Proactive, which is a whole process. You got to put on like 4 different things and go through all these different cleaners. I did the Accutane. I was doing all the different medications. I was, using concealer. I was really, my hair had to be perfect. When I was a teenager, you either had the shag that was perfectly coiffed, like the Justin Bieber shag where the kids would kind of trim their bangs up over their eyes. And so boys would literally have like perfectly trimmed bangs it was the Disney Channel original movie haircut. Every boy in a Disney Channel original movie from 1999 to 2010 had this haircut. And you either had that or your hair was spiky and frosted tips. And I was spiky with frosted tips. And it needed to be perfect. I took so long doing my hair. So anyway, I don't know what that's about. This is our New Year extravaganza. It's the end of 2024. And I thought for the show today, we could do a biggest gripes and biggest hypes of 2024. Not gonna lie, there's going to be more gripes than hypes. 2024 was a mostly gripe year. I did everything I could to really try to think of some good hypes. 2024 was not cool for most of us, right? Like 2024 was, I've not talked to a single person who was like, this was my best year. Most of us were surviving and not thriving. We did in my industry, in the entertainment industry, we did the whole strike. It feels like we didn't win that strike, and it feels like the powers that be in the industry have been punishing us for the strike all year long in 2024. So everyone's like, oh, we're just kind of hanging on. Let's get into it. Biggest gripes 2024. The first biggest gripe that comes to mind, and this is going to be a 2-parter, is the 2024 presidential election process. Now, I'm going to separate this into the election process and the election results. I've been doing this as my job for about 5 years now. I do online advocacy for political causes and for election cycles and things like that. And I also just make content about things in the political space, in the socio-political space. Built my TikTok audience in 2020. By the time the midterm elections were coming up in 2022, I was being hired by independent organizations to make videos for social media and to message for certain policies and ideas and talking points of the Biden-Harris administration. You know, it was an interesting thing when I first started doing that because I told them right off the bat, I said, this is different than me getting hired by a brand to just say like, hey, you guys should check out this electric toothbrush. I tried this electric toothbrush and boy, is it a toothbrush that's electric. You should get one too. It's a different thing because you're not just like selling your platform, selling ad space on your platform. You're actually attaching your name and your voice to an idea, to an opinion that actually matters, that actually affects the world. So I told a lot of these companies that I worked with early on, I won't do any videos that I don't agree with. Basically, I won't make a video for you that I wouldn't make for free. because I make political videos for free all the time. I'm always doing this stuff without getting paid constantly. And so I was like, I won't do any messaging for you or advocacy for you on anything that I don't feel comfortable advocating for. I won't make any videos for you that I would not make myself. And I also want to have creative control over the scripts that I write. And all of the companies that I work for are actually really cool. They get it. They want me to have creative control and over the scripts that I write. They allow me to come in and say, I don't want to say this, and this. I feel more comfortable saying this. They let me have that kind of leeway and that freedom. And I think that allows me to do that job with integrity. I am used to arguing with conservatives and disagreeing with conservatives and having conservatives see my videos and, make response videos and getting into back and forths with the conservative perspective. I'm used to having to debunk the conservative perspective. It's not a difficult position and perspective to tangle with. It's the same arguments over and over and over again. The reason why this election cycle in 2024 was so hard is I no longer was just arguing with Trump cultists. In fact, the majority of my attention was spent arguing with my friends and arguing with people who are on my team. It was so disheartening and depressing all year long to kind of see the writing on the wall that we weren't going to have a good shot at winning this very, very winnable election because hardline leftists refused to fall in line and work as a coalition to defeat Trumpism and to defeat fascism in America. They used the excuse of caring about the genocide in Gaza, a very justified cause, and they disingenuously constantly pretended like those of us who were advocating for the Biden-Harris administration and then the Harris-Walz ticket didn't care about Gaza. They just constantly lied about that, and that sucked. That just sucked to have people be like, oh, guess you don't care about genocide then. Guess that's not a hard line for you. And it's like, no, I do care about that. I absolutely care about that. And that's why in the binary choice between Harris-Walz or Trump-Vance, I have to choose Harris-Walz because that's the only choice that has any chance of providing any kind of hope for the people in Gaza. Doing anything else is basically sealing the fate for every man, woman, and child locked in that hellscape. It sucked all year long to have people who I'm normally, locked arm in arm with. I'm at the marches with them. I'm walking in the streets with them. I'm at the protests. I'm standing 10 toes down with them on all of these issues. I'm with them on fighting for marginalized communities and oppressed communities, and we all want the same things. We all see the writing on the wall with late-stage capitalism and see how that's a dead project and needs to be reworked. We all see the need for increased progressive ideas in politics and progressive policies, but these people have some of these people, man, and it's a small amount of us, just have the most brain-dead political strategy. They just have the worst ideas when it comes to political strategy. No, we gotta vote for Jill Stein. What, dude? What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, but she says she's the old she said that she would end the war in Gaza. She can say whatever the fuck she wants to say. She knows she's not going to win the election. She can say anything. She can be like, these people want to hear me say that I'm going to grant everybody the ability to fly in 2025, so I'll just say it. Yep, I got a magic potion. I'm Jill Stein, and if you vote for me, everybody's going to be able to fly. Did you hear that? Jill Stein said that we can fly. Who the fuck cares, dude? That's not real. That's not real, dude. To watch so many people fail to understand the trolley problem. Like the reason why the trolley problem exists, and I've talked about it so many times on this podcast this year, is because it's trying to educate us about the harsh reality of binary choices. It's trying to educate us about the reality of the world we live in, where regularly we are unfortunately forced to grapple with a binary choice where someone says, listen, you've got option A or option B. Both are very difficult. Both mean that people will be harmed. One is going to harm significantly more people than the other, but either way, you've got to make a choice that's going to result in people getting harmed, which is just what voting in American elections is. It's just what it is. It's what it always has been. And these people are like, I refuse. I refuse. It's like, cool, just so you know, refusing does not absolve you. And it's like, cool, the thing that you cared about, the thing that you were mad about, the thing that made you abstain is now worse. You have now made life worse, not just for the people who you were hardlining over, but for everyone else. And that was the other thing, is like the amount of times that people would go, explain to me how it can get worse. Like the amount of people that like somehow aren't familiar with the concept of things always being able to get worse. You are the person in a movie who, when everything falls apart, when everything goes wrong, you go, well, could be worse, could be raining, and then it starts raining. It sucked. It was a very difficult thing because I was out here trying to prevent what happened from happening. And I was fighting with people in my own audience about it, who were calling me a shill, who were calling me a sellout, who were saying I don't actually have any real values. Anyway, that sucked. The other part of it is the 2024 election results. Maybe one of the top 20 worst days of my life. I'd actually have to go through and think of I've had a lot of bad days, but that day fucking sucked. Not only just the result of the election, but the ensuing fallout. Watching everybody's hot takes about like what went wrong or what the Democratic Party should have done better, or like hopefully they'll learn their lesson this time, saying like how, she ran such a bad campaign, talking about what a terrible campaign Harris Walz was. And I don't know, in my mind, in a binary reality where it's Trump or her, the only thing she needed to do as a candidate was run a better campaign than him. And she did that. Are we being serious here? Like, are we seriously saying she didn't run a better campaign than him? Like, are we seriously saying that when they were on national television debating each other, he seemed more coherent and intelligent and capable and qualified for the job than she did? I don't know. No, I just disagree with that wholeheartedly. The leftist people, well, she could have just said one thing about Palestine. She said so many things. She said so many things about wanting to fight for the liberation and the self-determination and the dignity of the Palestinian people. She said it so many times. She said it at the debate, on the debate stage. Like, she made it's so the amount of people that were like, she really should have like talked about her economic plan in detail. It's like, she did, dude. I went to Pennsylvania for a week in September. While I was out there were campaign ads playing on TV every single commercial break. And it was back and forth, Trump and Harris. I can't even explain to you the difference between the messaging in a Harris ad versus a Trump ad. Kamala Harris's ads would actually try to talk about, in abstract terms, some of the vague points of like how these policies were going to be accomplished. It would be like, here's how Harris is going to fight for the middle class. She's going to, on day one, end price gouging by corporations, the reason for corporate greed and inflation, and like talking about like what she's going to do in a pragmatic way to help the economy and help out the middle class, talking about like point by point, breaking things down in these campaign ads. And then I swear to God, I'm not exaggerating, this is what Donald Trump's campaign ads were. They were just like, Kamala Harris says Bidenomics is working, but this graph on CNN shows that it's not. CNN showed a graph on TV that said that the economy's actually bad. And it was just like a picture of a CNN newscast with a graph like of who knows what with an arrow pointing down. And I swear to God, that's what the ad was. I'm not exaggerating at all. And I was like, this is the problem. They understand that they need a commercial that's just like, did you know that actually economy bad and graph point down? And I'm not even joking. That's what the ad was. The ad was like, she says the economy good, but CNN even had a picture that said not. And I'm not like, I have to really try to exaggerate the language to make it seem dumber than it was, because it was actually so dumb. And her ads weren't like college level academic dissertation on economics or healthcare. It's still a 30-second spot with like platitudes and slogans. Of course it is, but it was just more detailed. It was just talking about in greater detail what she plans to do and the experience she brings to the table. And like, if that's the problem, if everyone's just saying her campaign should have been dumber, then I also just fucking hate that. And I also don't know that being dumber would have helped, because I actually think that the biggest problem is misogynoir. It's a combination of people who are really stupid, really afraid, really racist, and really misogynistic. And what a bummer. When we fired that guy with record turnout, when we actually showed up to the polls and showed that progressive ideas and progressive policy is actually the more popular position in America by a lot, by really big numbers, when we actually showed up and did our job and fired that guy in 2020, the world rejoiced. That did not happen in 2024 when we reelected him. The world didn't go, yay, woohoo. It was international mourning. Everyone was just like, oh shit. Oh, God damn it, what has America done? And really, as bad as it was that we elected the guy once in 2016, as much as a dark, stupid joke as that was, it's 10 times worse to do it again 8 years later, when he's 8 years older, 8 years more riddled with dementia, 8 years more a 34-time convicted felon. The man has now officially been held liable for sexual assault in court. It's just so much worse now. It doesn't even feel like we should allow that to happen in this country. If felons can't even vote, how the fuck can one of them be reelected as president? After trying to overthrow democracy in January of 2021, after literally trying to stage a coup to hang his former vice president outside of the Capitol building, what a depressing thing. Huge gripe there in 2024. Let's move on, shall we? Let's move on to something outside of the realm of politics. Another gripe that I have with 2024 is that I'm a huge movie guy. I just started a new podcast called the Oner Podcast that's been going for a few months now with my childhood best friend, Kramer England. You can find our podcast over on its own channel now on YouTube, so go check that out. We've only got like 38 subscribers so far, so help us out. Help us build that show. All of our new episodes are going to be on that channel. So I'll link that channel in the description of this video on YouTube. By the way, TikTok studio audience, follow me on YouTube but I'm a big movie guy. I work in the film industry. I'm an actor. I like going to the movies. All of our biggest releases were like kind of really big duds, and they were mostly legacy sequels and just sequels. Like all of the highest grossing films of the year were just either legacy sequels of like really old IP or just sequels. Like of the major big $100 million plus blockbusters that came out this year, I think I liked 2 or 3 of them. I like Dune 2. Denis Villeneuve is the Lisan al-Gaib. He is the chosen one. I think that Denis Villeneuve is more the guy than Christopher Nolan is the guy. Dune 2 kicked ass. Also who the guy is Greg Fraser, the cinematographer of Dune 2. Anything that Greg Fraser is shooting, I'm now going to see it. Whatever it is, if Greg Fraser shot it, I'll be there. And Wicked, loved Wicked. Very happy to say that as a musical theater boy. And I think the only other one I liked was like Deadpool and Wolverine. And Deadpool and Wolverine has a lot of problems as a movie and as an entry into the MCU. But that's just because the MCU itself is just a total mess. And I have no idea what the fuck's going on over there anymore. But I did enjoy my time in the theater with Deadpool and Wolverine. I had a good time. And pretty much everything else that I saw, be it Twisters, be it Beetlejuice, be it Gladiator 2, be it Inside Out 2, be it our fucking Argyle, was just not good, man. And here's my really big gripe about this year, is I actually did see a lot of really good movies. You know, like there are all these like really great movies that distributors will pick up at film festivals, and then they'll just sort of like distribute it to like 50 theaters across the world for a few weeks and not really advertise the movie at all. And if you're lucky enough to live in one of the towns that has one of those theaters, you happen to see it and you're like, well, this is one of the best movies I've seen all year. How come this distributor didn't pay to tell more people about this? I just think that right now, the film industry doesn't actually know what it's doing when it comes to trying to make money. Because a lot of the best movies I saw this year were movies that looked like they had a budget of between $5 and $10 million, which means if their distributors had just invested a little bit more money into informing people that these movies existed and pushing them into more cinemas, they probably actually could have made a pretty good profit on these movies. They probably could have made $20 to $25 million, $30 million. Not, we're not doing superhero movie numbers, but if you make the movie for $5 million and you're planning on releasing it theatrically, then make sure that your theatrical release actually has a shot at making your budget back. Strange Darling from Miramax, who's sort of like re-emerging. Miramax, I feel like, is like tiptoeing back into being public about releasing films. Miramax has been distributing and releasing films, but like not really putting their name on things because the Miramax name has been sullied by Harvey Weinstein. But since Harvey's been in jail long enough, and since the leadership at Miramax has all been turned over to people who are not soulless monsters, they've been tiptoeing back into putting their name in front of things. They distributed Strange Darling, which was just a fantastic movie, fantastic thriller. Kyle Gallner's never been better. Kyle Gallner, former guest on this podcast, by the way, on the People Pleaser podcast. And honestly, Willa Fitzgerald should be winning an Oscar for her work in Strange Darling. Willa Fitzgerald, for my money, gave the dopest performance I've seen all year from anybody. She should be getting a bunch of awards buzz. This movie should have turned a profit. Instead, most people aren't even aware that this movie even is a thing. Another great movie that I saw this year that I just saw in December, and it's like, it came out in December. It came out in the awards sort of season, was The Order, Justin Kurzel's film, The Order, about the true story of a white supremacist gang in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and Spokane, Washington in the late 80s that was trying to build a militia to kind of carry out acts of domestic terrorism. And this movie fucking rules, dude. It's so good. Jude Law is given some of his, it's like one of his all-time career best performances. And Nicholas Hoult, dude, if you're hyped about Nicholas Hoult playing Lex Luthor in the upcoming James Gunn Superman film, go watch The Order and watch Nicholas Hoult be the villain of this movie and watch how good this guy is in that movie. And this movie got nothing, dude. Nobody knows what The Order is. Nobody's heard of it. I watched the movie and I was like, this is another movie that looks like a lot of the actors probably did it for a pay cut. They probably read the script and went, this is good enough that I'll do this for lower than my normal rate. And the movie was probably made for between $5 to $10 million. And it looks amazing. If you don't know, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is one of the most beautiful places in the world. So is Spokane, Washington. They are very, very photogenic and they look amazing in this movie. There are just like so many beautiful vistas and landscapes on display in this thing. The Order not only was a very good thriller and a very well-acted movie, it was an important movie with like an important message, especially given the fact that we just re-elected a bunch of Nazis into the White House. So I can't believe that movie didn't get a bigger push. My favorite film of the year. My favorite film of the year that for the rest of my life, I'm going to be going, what the hell happened there, is Sing Sing, which A24 released, dude. This is a distribution company that has been nominated for Oscars and has been winning Oscars for like 10 years now, dude. You remember when they accidentally said La La Land won Best Picture, but it was actually Moonlight? You know who distributed Moonlight and who made Moonlight? A24, dog. I saw Sing Sing at the Toronto International Film Festival, all right? Here's the thing about the cast of Sing Sing. If you don't know about Sing Sing, go watch Sing Sing. The cast of Sing Sing is about a program that started in Sing Sing Penitentiary in New York in like 2005, where it's a theater program for inmates. They put on plays with these inmates, and it has massive rehabilitative potential. The men that go through this program, when they're released, like 95% of these men stay out of prison. And that's a really significant statistic because America has a terrible recidivism rate when it comes to people who get out of prison. Our recidivism rate in this country is like 67%. Like on average, 67% of people who have spent time in a penitentiary after they're released will go back at some point in their life. But the people who go through this program at Sing Sing Penitentiary have like a 95% retention rate, where like 95% of them that get out stay out. And here's the thing, is all of the men that started this program in Sing Sing Penitentiary, they play themselves in the movie. The actual men that started this program play themselves in the film, and it is one of the most powerful things I've ever seen on screen. It's so amazing. They're all so good. Coleman Domingo is giving the best performance of his career. And if you know anything about Coleman Domingo, that's saying a lot because Coleman Domingo is the shit and he's giving the best performance of his career. But the problem is Coleman Domingo is getting outshone and the movie is getting stolen from him by this guy named Clarence Divine Eye Macklin, who is playing himself in the movie and giving one of the most astonishing cinematic performances I've ever seen in my life. I can't believe that A24 rightly, smartly picked this movie up and then dumped it unceremoniously into the trash in like 100 cinemas in August and didn't tell anyone it existed. I don't know what my industry is doing right now. And this year more than any other made me go like, what is happening? I don't get it, because like that movie should be the movie. Now we're going to get into like some more personal gripes for me personally about the film industry in 2024. We're going to stay in the universe of the film industry. And this is something I have made an entire YouTube video essay about, but look, bro, I got personal gripes with critics and with the way that it's not even the general population, because audiences got it. Audiences in general liked this movie and responded appropriately. It was the critical response. It was the box office response. It was the media. It was the hit job the media did on this movie. This year was a big year for me, okay? One of my biggest hypes of the year is that I went to 4 film premieres this year for movies that I was in. I've never had a year in my life, in my career, where I've had 4 movies come out in the same year. I'm in the Horizon movies with Kevin Costner. They're very big movies. They have a massive cast, like lots and lots and lots of people are in these movies. Every single day that I was working on these movies, I was working with legends, people that I've been watching in movies my entire life. You know, Will Patton, Danny Houston, Luke Wilson, Sienna Miller, Giovanni Ribisi, Kevin Costner, dude. And it was, one of the most amazing experiences of my life and of my career. I was nervous all year long for this movie to come out. When the movie premiered at Cannes and got an 11-minute standing ovation, I cried in my house. I was so relieved. And then the critics got a hold of it. And it's going to be one of the biggest gripes of my entire career. It's going to be one of the biggest gripes of my entire life. The major complaint that all of the critics had was that it was part 1 of 4. Every single review I read for this movie it was a pretty good movie. Cinematography was great, acting was great, interesting characters, production design was amazing, really good score. It was really unresolved at the end of the film. The movie just sort of ends, and I just wanted more from all of these storylines. And these are all professional movie critics who understood that they were watching part 1 of a 4-part series. Why is my movie getting singled out here? Whether we like it or not, whether you're into it or not, whether it's your thing or not, Hollywood telling big epic stories in multiple installments, in multiple parts, for the theater, making movies that are multiple part movies is not new. James Cameron just straight up announced that he was making 5 Avatar sequels, and everyone was like, sure, see you there. We all went and watched Wicked Part 1, and we loved it. We went, no problem. The movie ended at intermission in the middle of the story, and we went, loved that. That was awesome. I'll see you in a year. We watched Dune Part 1, and we said, however many years you need to give me Dune Part 2, you take it, Denis Villeneuve. I'll be there. It took like 2.5 years for us to get Dune Part 2, and it was worth the wait. You want to know when Horizon Chapter 2 was scheduled to come out in theaters? You want to know how soon we were about to show everyone Part 2 of our movie? 6 motherfucking weeks. Horizon Part 1 came out in theaters on June 23rd, and on every single poster for this movie, it was advertised that on August 16th, Part 2 would come out. 6 weeks. We were like, hey, come watch Part 1, and in 6 weeks, you get to watch Part 2, and people were like, how dare you? How dare you make me wait 6 weeks to watch another part? I will not be watching Part 2. I will not. Absolutely not. I paid money to see Part 1, and now you expect me to come back and watch a whole other movie? Nay, 3 whole other movies? And I just, for the life of me, I will never understand it. Because again, audiences liked this movie. And the critics unanimously, well, about 50% of critics on that Rotten Tomatoes score were like, I didn't like that it was Part 1. Which, like, hey, that's fine, but be consistent about that. I want you guys to always be saying we don't like Part 1. We need more than Part 1, or don't say it at all. This was primed to be a really cool year for me, to be in some really cool movies, and it really kind of fell apart in a really massive way. So not only did you might have noticed that Horizon Part 2 never came out in theaters. That's because the box office receipts were so poor for Horizon Part 1 that New Line Cinema and Warner Brothers decided to push the release date back to an indefinite time. It was kind of disastrous. It went from being this like thing that should have been a really exciting, big, cool thing in my life to being something that like didn't wind up working out for stupid reasons. Okay, moving on through my biggest gripes. All of my sports teams sucked. I'm going to keep that one short. The University of Utah Utes, I like college football. It's fun. You know, I don't know. It's just a weird thing that I like. And everyone was saying preseason that they were going to win the Big 12 and maybe go to the playoff and have a really good season. And instead they had like one of their worst seasons that they've had in a really long time. and that wasn't fun to watch. That sucked. And then the Utah Jazz are just like nothing. I haven't watched a single Utah Jazz game, so I got nothing. This is something I think people are going to disagree with me on this. I think I'm going to get a lot of people in the comments disagreeing with me, but this is something in 2024 that has been making me feel insane. It makes me feel like I live in an alternate reality from other people. I feel like my ears don't work, or like my brain or my heart. It's very. I feel very, to use a very buzzy word, I feel very gaslit by this storyline. Every time I see a video about this on TikTok or on the internet, I feel gaslit by what I'm hearing, by what people are telling me. And what I'm talking about here is the unanimous outpouring, the dogpiling of extreme hate for the band Lawrence and that song. The song where Grace Lawrence goes, tell me what you need. BuzzFeed top 10 ways that you hate me. Lately. Listen. It's okay to not like a song. You're allowed to not like a song. You don't have to like a song just because you can just be like, that song doesn't do it for me. What's so weird to me is that everybody seems to be having an experience with this song where it's like the song, they're treating it like it's one of the worst things they've ever heard. Like it's a horrendously bad vocal and cringy and embarrassingly bad vocal. Like the lyrics are like terribly awful. Like the musicianship on display is so unbelievably bad. And every time I listen to it, I just am like, what is everyone talking about? What is happening? I'm not a Lawrence fan. I actually don't really like the band Lawrence. They're not really my vibe. But one thing I'm not going to do because of that is pretend like the people in Lawrence, particularly like the brother and sister that are at the front of it all, can't sing or like are bad musicians. I'm not just gonna like pretend like they suck at writing songs. They don't. And the critiques of it are like, it's too commercial, which, hey, as an independent artist, like some of my favorite albums to listen to are my friends' homemade albums that they recorded on like tape decks. Like little teeny artists from little towns that no one's ever heard of. My friends, people I know personally, who recorded an album of songs where they're just playing an unplugged acoustic guitar into a tape deck and recording it onto a tape. And I genuinely love those albums because they're so unique and personal, and they offer a perspective in the songwriting that you're never going to get from a mainstream artist or a mainstream band. So I absolutely understand the appeal of music that is not made to be available commercially. People say this sounds like a song you would hear in Target or a song that you would hear in JCPenney. But I get that criticism. The problem is that's like all music. Like all the music that everybody likes is playing in Target and is playing in JCPenney. Beyonce is showing up in Target and JCPenney. Taylor Swift is showing up there. Billie Eilish, Charlie XCX, Chappell Roan is showing up there. It's so weird to me to be like to zero in on this one song by this one band and be like, ugh, I hate how corporate and commercial it is. And it's like, okay, cool, but why do you love every other corporate and commercial song produced? Like, be consistent with your critique. This goes back to the same, like the Horizon thing. It's like, hey, if it bothers you that movies are being broken into multiple parts, totally fine. Be consistent about that. Don't say, I hate this Lawrence song because it's too commercial, but then consume so much commercial music. And also, like, music's not just automatically bad because it has commercial appeal. I like a lot of commercial music. We all like a lot of commercial music. The other thing that people will say about this Lawrence song is that it's an appropriated sound. That Lawrence are primarily affluent white kids who are appropriating styles from, like, black artists and black music. And hey, fair. Calling out cultural appropriation in music and in art, totally fair. Again, be fucking consistent. Have you guys seen how Billie Eilish dresses these days? You know that Jack Harlow, like, you know that y'all are like hardcore fucking with Jack Harlow regularly, right? Like, you know that y'all are just like, no, Jack Harlow's cool. I like Jack Harlow, but I don't like the cultural appropriation of Lawrence. White people appropriating style from black people and from artists of color is as old as popular music is old. Like, it's just always been a thing in the form. I'm not endorsing it. I'm not saying it's cool. I'm saying it blows my mind that everyone is hyper fixated on this. And it's not even the entire song. It's not, that's the crazy thing. Every single review that you see of this song is the one clip. It's Grace going, tell me what you need. BuzzFeed top 10 ways that you hate me. That's it. And everyone's like, oh God, it's awful. And they're playing like a 15-second clip of the song. And I have a theory of like the reason why people are sick of the song or don't like the song or why it grates people is because of Lawrence's marketing strategy, the way that Lawrence approaches social media and particularly TikTok. Because one of the reasons why I don't really fuck with Lawrence, one of the reasons why I don't really like them is because I got really sick and tired of having their music jammed down my throat. When they come out with a new song, they just post a video of that song like 200 times for like 3 months. They post usually the same clip. So a couple years ago when that song came out, this shit's gonna kill me, but I won't let it. And I try to give them hell, but the first time I heard that song, I thought, oh, that's a pretty cool song. She's got a good voice. This is a pretty cool band. They got a cool style. By like the third or fourth time I'd heard that clip, I was like, if I hear this song again, I'm going to like blow my phone up. I'm going to throw my phone in a river. Because I can't really blame Lawrence for that. That's just the modern state of the music industry. Like, in order to get your product out there, in order to like appease the algorithm and get your music out to the most possible people, you just kind of have to be really annoying. You just kind of have no choice but to just like jam your song down people's throats. But again, this is not something that is unique to Lawrence. This is a problem that the music industry has right now, and this is something that lots of artists are doing. Lots of popular artists who are trying to grow on social media do this. They just sort of shove one little section of a new song out over and over and over and over again. And it's just so weird to me that everyone is just mad at Lawrence for it. That's another argument I see is people are like, it's the Berkeley musicians. It's the Berkeley sound. So many people are just, Nobody has the courage to just have their own fucking opinion. They see somebody saying something and they see somebody say it's the Berkeley Sound, and then everybody just, oh yeah, it's that Berkeley Sound. Berkeley. Do you actually know what the Berkeley School of Music is? Because I actually know people who graduated from the Berkeley School of Music. I've actually sat down and made music with graduates from the Berkeley School of Music. Every musician I've ever worked with who went to the Berkeley School of Music is like the best musician I've ever met. So like when you say like, oh God, it's just like that Berkeley sound. I'm like, what do you mean by that? You mean that sound where you get 6 or 7 really, really talented musicians together and form a band? Like, what the fuck are you talking about when you say that? There's just so much way worse music in the world, and there are so many way worse vocalists than Grace Lawrence. Grace Lawrence is not a bad singer at all. She's got a really good voice. Y'all are being weird with that take. It's okay to not like the song, but the amount of hate has blown my mind. And finally, my final gripe of 2024 is the banning of TikTok. And when this first came up, it pissed me off. It pissed me off how Congress just voted in overwhelming numbers for this. How like our government can't agree on anything, but when it came to banning TikTok, they were like, yeah, we can all get on the same page on that. We can all get on the same page and like, fuck that app for sure. And fuck everybody who makes their living on that app. That sucks. And you know what? When it happened, I said, I know that this has happened a lot. I know that this has come up a lot, but like, I think this one's for real. Everyone was like, no, it's not. All my friends, like so many of my friends who are digital creators were like, it's not going to happen. And I was like, I think it will. And even now as I'm desperately trying to get people to leave this place and follow me elsewhere, people are just like, we'll be fine. It's not going anywhere. But it's like, what is going to happen to stop it? Nothing is happening to stop it. And I just don't think that enough people are upset about the precedent this sets, that we should not want the government being able to just ban modes of communication and entire platforms where people make their livelihood. Like, hundreds of thousands of people found a new career in digital content creation on TikTok during the global pandemic, and the United States government wants to just erase those careers overnight. And some of us, I have friends who are lucky enough that they have been able to diversify their audience away from that platform. They've been able to build a big platform on YouTube, build a big platform on Instagram, build a big platform on Threads or Facebook. I just, for whatever reason, in the whole 5 years that I've been doing this, have not been able to do it. I've tried the entire time, and I just, for the life of me, cannot get my audience to go and follow me on other platforms. I have 1.5 million followers on TikTok, and I don't have anywhere near that on any other platform. I'm going to kind of be building from square one again if that app goes away, and that really sucks. And it doesn't just suck for me, it sucks for a lot of people. There are a lot of creators who are in the same situation that I am, who weren't lucky enough to be able to diversify and build their audience elsewhere. Let's go to the comments before we go to biggest hypes. Those are all my gripes. Let's get the digital audience's biggest gripes. Jen the Witch says all of it, and that's fair and reasonable, and I see you. Mr. Mike says, Trump is my gripe. The end. Again, fair. Again, how insane. The Ice Cream Socialist, this is a good one, saying, people still not wearing masks, and we now have H5N1 looming. Yeah, this is like almost kind of immediately in the new Trump presidency, and I don't think a lot of people are aware of this, like we might launch into another global pandemic. Maybe the upside of another global pandemic is like it'll save TikTok. Who knows? Maybe because we'll all be sheltering in place again, the government will be like, okay, well, we need TikTok if we're gonna keep this society moving forward. Who knows? But yeah, that's a scary one. Okay, let's move on to biggest hypes. Thank you for sharing your gripes in the comments. We're gonna move on to biggest hypes. This is a shorter list, because there was less to like about 2024 than there was to complain about. But let's get into it. So my first biggest hype of 2024 is Chappell Roan finally emerging as the star. In November of 2023, I went and saw Chappell Roan at a hotel in Vegas in a little room that fit about 300 people in it. And I was taking videos at that show and I was posting them to Instagram and saying, if you don't know who this is, you're about to. And trust me, you're only going to be able to see her in rooms this size for like a couple more months. And then the only way you'll ever be able to see her is in stadiums. And just a few months into 2024, she had such a massive glow up. And I was stoked about it. I was really, really happy to see a small, truly independent artist like Chappell Roan get her flowers and become a massive international superstar. Minor gripes with that are, it was kind of sad to watch her grapple with what that meant for her personally and her mental health journey, and like actually getting to see that like, in real time. We actually got, when you're talking about someone like, Sabrina Carpenter or Billie Eilish, like these are people who it kind of came on gradually throughout their life. It was sort of always there. They're always going to deal with the struggles of being massively famous, but their stardom kind of built piece by piece from their adolescence till now. Chappell, it was kind of as close to overnight as you can possibly get. Like she had an audience of a couple million people worldwide, not a bad audience at all. And kind of in a matter of like months, she had everyone in the world knew what her name was and knew the entire album, Diary of a Midwest Princess, as they should. In my opinion, it's the best pop album to come out in like the last 5 years. But it was kind of sad to see her going through that. And another minor gripe as an addendum to this hype is I wasn't super stoked about Chappell's political influence. What she had to say politically during the election. I didn't think it helped things, but also I don't think that people should be putting that kind of pressure on pop stars who just make music. I don't think that people should be looking to Chappell Roan to figure out who they're going to vote for. I don't think that's who we should be getting our political messaging from. I felt like it was kind of unfair, and I think she agreed. I think she was like, "Why are you asking me to talk about this?" And then she did talk about it, and I don't think she talked about it in a way that was like very particularly intelligent or helpful. But I was excited to see Chappell's glow up. I remain a fan. I will remain a fan, and I remain excited for the albums that will come out next. Okay, my next biggest hype is going to all the movie premieres. I talked about this in the biggest gripe section, but I went to 4 movie premieres this year. It started off with, I went to the Toronto International Film Festival in the fall of 2023, saw a movie that I was in called Riddle of Fire, and then that movie premiered in March, and I got to go to the premiere, and I got to go to a screening of it in LA, and I got to do all this fun stuff with that movie. I really liked that movie. I got to go watch it with a bunch of my friends in LA. They liked the movie. It's fun to watch a movie that you're in that you like and your friends like it too, and everyone's laughing and everyone's having a good time, and I was really proud of that movie, and that was really, really cool. Then in June, I got to go to the Horizon premiere. Biggest premiere I'd ever been to in my life, and it's like we had a whole theater rented out, in Los Angeles, red carpet, the whole deal. The whole theater was wrapped, with the poster of our movie. It was a star-studded event. I got to bring lots of friends. A lot of my, internet creator influencer friends got to come. My parents got to come. Really, really cool event. And then I got to go to the premiere of Horizon Chapter 2 at the Venice International Film Festival. And let me tell you, that was, top 10 life experience for sure. I wasn't going to go. We heard that Horizon 2 was going to premiere at Venice, and I made the decision to go. And I'm so glad I did. I'm in a lot more of the second movie. If you've seen the first movie and you're like, why are you talking about this movie so much? You're only in one scene of the movie. I'm in a lot more of the second movie, which is why I was really bummed out that the second movie, got pushed from its theatrical release and that we don't actually know when it's going to come out. But I got to go watch that movie in Venice. Dude, get dressed up, take a fancy water taxi from Venice to this island where they're playing the movie, to this amazing hotel that Kevin's staying in, and that all of the big stars were staying in. I stayed at an Airbnb in Venice that was actually really lovely. And then walking a red carpet that really felt like a legit crazy red carpet, hundreds of press, people waiting with posters. They wanted you to sign the posters. It was an amazing experience to be there, to see the film, to hang out with, Kevin and all of the cast afterward at the hotel. Kevin Costner came up to me as he was leaving the party, put his hand on my shoulder and said, "I'm really proud of you. I want you to know how proud of you I am." And I just about broke down and cried. It was really an amazing experience. And then lastly, in the fall, a movie that I made in 2020 called Alien Country. Took them 4 years to get it finished and to find distribution. It finally came out, and that was really cool. It was really cool because this was a ragtag team of indie filmmakers who made this movie on a shoestring budget, and it was really cool to see them pull together a final edit of this movie that I think really works. I think it's a really fun movie. You can find Alien Country online and watch it if you want. I'll link, Riddle of Fire and Alien Country in the description of this video, but going to all the premieres was really cool. That was a really big highlight of my year. Even though I wasn't working a ton as an actor, I got to feel like a successful actor for a little. I got to feel what it feels like to be an actor who has, I guess, quote unquote, made it in the biz. Now, even though I didn't work a lot this year, I did a handful of commercials, but I did finish the year by shooting my first horror film. Never been in a horror film before, always been interested in acting in horror movies, and I shot one this month in December in Utah for 2 weeks, and it was a blast, dude. I'm really excited for people to see this movie. We had so much fun. Shooting a horror movie is so much different than shooting a normal movie. On so many other movies, you're kind of sitting around all day long to say a couple lines in a very muted tone, and you just kind of have to keep yourself awake all day long. But shooting a horror movie, we were running and screaming and sweating and crying and bleeding every single day, and everything was really intense, and that was really fun. And the people I made it with were top notch. The cast was amazing. I just had a blast, and it was a really good way to finish my year. Biggest hype, Superman trailer. I'm a big Superman fan. Kramer and I talked about this on the Oner Podcast. Again, check out the Oner Podcast. We did our reaction. We did our obligatory trailer reaction. That's a good video. There's a trailer reaction, us reacting to the trailer over on the Oner Podcast channel. Check it out. I've got a Superman tattoo over my chest. I'm a big Superman nerd. Very excited. Minor gripe I'm going to add to this hype, okay? And people aren't going to like this. I don't like that trailer has the John Williams music. And I talk about this in the video that I did with Kramer. And people are like, no, that's Superman's music. And it's just yeah, no, that's Superman's music in the Richard Donner universe. That's Christopher Reeve. That's his Superman's music. That's Superman. I think one of the best things about Man of Steel from 2013 is that Hans Zimmer was allowed to come in and build a new Superman score. One of my favorite things about a new Superman movie is the newness of it. New actor playing Superman, new costume, new suit, new emblem, new Fortress of Solitude, new Lois Lane, new Lex Luthor. New image of new idea of what Krypton looks like. And one of those things should be new Superman theme. I understand how iconic John Williams is. Do not get me wrong. I'm not saying John Williams isn't the GOAT. He is the GOAT. That music is Superman. He nailed it. He knocked it out of the park. He always does. But Hans Zimmer's music is also Superman. The first time I heard Hans Zimmer score to Man of Steel, I was like, damn, that's Superman. As good as John Williams is, as seemingly irreplaceable as John Williams is, Hans Zimmer's score is very much so Superman, and it's very good. And I really hope that James Gunn's movie has its own musical score. I hope it has its own theme for its iteration of Superman, because I feel like if we don't get, I feel like it's lazy. I feel like it's a cop-out. It's like, oh, so you're going to redesign everything else but not give us new music? Because you're afraid of what if we get the music wrong? You got to be willing to take that creative risk, okay? And I hope that they take it. And I will be watching the movie. I will be sat. I will be there. Another biggest hype of 2024, this was something that was kind of unexpected, but something I've been wanting to get more of, is I got all these kind of unexpected writing gigs. I wrote on my first TV show, which was kind of a big deal. I was on the writing staff for a Peacock show that will come out in 2025. I don't think I can say what the name of it is yet, but I wrote on a show. It's going to have my name. It's going to say written by Austin Archer on the episode of a TV show. And I think that's really cool. And I got hired to write a musical for a theater company. I've been hired for all these writing gigs. I got hired to write a screenplay, so I'm writing that screenplay right now. This screenplay that I've been hired to write for this production company. Another screenplay that I wrote has been optioned by another production company to get made. So I was just like, I was writing a lot. And that was cool. And I was writing a lot in like a professional capacity and getting like a lot of offers to be a writer and to participate in writers' rooms. And I don't know, I felt like I took steps forward this year as a writer that were important and significant. And I liked that a lot. That was cool. Okay, this one is, I've gone back and forth about whether or not I was going to say this one.
Yeah, that one's actually going to be available exclusively on, and there's a version of this podcast right now on that is significantly longer. It's like about 45 minutes longer, has a lot more content. And if you're interested, you can go check it out over at, all right, okay, back to the thing.
And finally, my last biggest hype of 2024, and this kind of coincides with what somebody said earlier in the comments about their health insurance, about how one of their biggest gripes was like running out of their health insurance days. And this is going to be a controversial hype, but I think it's something that we kind of needed to close out the year on. I think we needed some kind of symbol of hope and of solidarity. And I'm gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna throw out Luigi Mangion and what he allegedly did, allegedly, innocent until proven guilty. Nothing's been proven yet. All right, we got to have the court case. We got to have the day in court, hear the trial. Allegedly, what Luigi Mangion may or may not have done, and the way that we as a society instantly understood it, I found to be actually pretty genuinely inspiring. A lot of people found it to be really horrifying how many people seem to be rallying behind this. And I kind of find that stuff to be hard to take serious. I find it really hard to take serious. I was raised in a society that glorifies necessary violence to progress righteous causes. I was raised on war movies that talked about, the last great generation and the last great war, World War II, a war where millions of people died. Like wars are just millions of people just murdering each other en masse. That's what war is. But people can like kind of contextualize things and go, but it was glorious. And it was for a righteous cause. Hitler was going to take over the world with his evil. And he was. And he was a bad guy with bad ideas, doing bad things en masse to a lot of people, harming a lot of innocent people. And you know who else was doing a lot of bad things to a lot of innocent people? The only reason he was doing it was to make money? Was Brian Thompson and the entire private healthcare industry in America. They are bad people doing bad things en masse. They are committing mass murder to maximize profits for shareholders. They are violent people who regularly carry out state-sanctioned legal violence against their customers, against the people who give them their personal fortune. They take money from people for policies and then don't pay out on those policies when the people need that money back. Fuck those people. And it is not in my constitution to pick up a gun and stand a post. If civil war breaks out in the United States, I will be heading for the border. You can bet your ass I have no interest in being a soldier. It is not in my physical makeup to be able to hold a gun and point it at another person and pull the trigger. I can't do it. But the fact that we all understood that what Luigi Mangion may or may not have done, allegedly, was done as a form of necessary violence because violence apparently is the only language that the ruling class speaks, that the ruling class actually responds to. The fact that we all understood that and rallied around it after the re-election of Donald Trump, I thought was pretty fucking cool. I don't want progress to come to our civilization through violence alone. I don't want it to have to come through violence at all. The world that I want is a world where ideas and reason and the power of words and language can win out. I want to live in a world where you sit down and you weigh the value of two ideas, of two proposals, and the better idea, the more logical, the more principled, the more humanistic, the more compassionate, The more empathetic idea wins. I want to live in that world where we just sit down and have a reasonable discussion about differing opinions, and the better ideas win out, where we can appeal to the better nature of each other's humanity, where we can appeal to the goodness of people's hearts. I want to live in that world. I want that to be how we achieve the cause of progress. However, we live in a world where people's better nature can't really be appealed to always, because we have 75 million people who just voted to re-elect Donald Trump, who's an objectively bad person, who does bad things. We have people whose hearts and minds are sick, who are not well, who are not capable of being reached on a human level. We have people who the only language that gets through to them, the only language that they can see or hear or respond to, is unfortunately violence. And it's crazy that those people will preach to you, that people who are themselves violent people, who are themselves propping up violent people, propping up violent leaders who do violent things, will then try to preach to you about being excited about Luigi Mangion and say, how dare you cheer for this wanton violence? How dare you cheer for a society that is dictated by violence? Again, I am personally not a violent person. I am personally a person who, like, if I got in a fist fight with someone, I'd probably have panic attacks about it for a year straight. I do not personally want to resolve my issues with violence. I do not personally want to fight for the cause of progress through violence. I prefer doing what I do, yapping. But I can't pretend like I don't live in a world that is not dictated by violence. It's so ridiculous for American politicians to tell the American people on the news that political violence has no place in this country. This country that is built on political violence. The foundation of the country is political violence. Every single year of this country's existence has been propped up by the proliferation of political violence. It's insane to pretend like we are just like this peaceful, nonviolent people. And when someone like Luigi Mangion does what he does, it interrupts and defiles and insults our peaceful nature. The reality is, Luigi Mangion committed an act of, allegedly committed an act of violence against the ruling class, against the people who are in charge. And they don't like that. And so they're trying to get all of us to agree, isn't he such a bad guy? And I am heartened by the fact that people on both sides of the political spectrum seem to understand that there's a reason why that happened. What are your biggest hypes of 2024? What did I miss? What are things that happened in your personal life or things that happened in the larger social sphere that you would like to highlight? Good things that happened in 2024. The Price is Right. Yodel Guy says that submarine was pretty cool. Yeah. Another thing that's just sort of like class solidarity. That was another thing that was just kind of funny how immediately none of us gave a shit. Just immediately everyone was like, yeah, that serves them right. What? Billionaires wanted to go down and see the Titanic in a little PlayStation submarine, and they wanted to cut costs on it and not listen to the people who actually know what they're doing. Yeah, sorry guys, fuck you. Greg 12H says James Wood Telescope. Hell yeah. That's cool. That's a really cool one. That's a really cool one. I like when we actually use resources to develop technology that actually feels meaningful and useful and actually adds value to the experience of being alive and being conscious. And yeah, People Pleaser is written, edited, hosted, and produced by me, Austin Archer, with original theme music also by me. You can find more of my music by going to austinarchermusic.bandcamp.com. Go check that out, my babies. There's all my music over there. There's all my music. If you don't like Lawrence, if you're like, Lawrence is too commercial, and if you want to put your money where your mouth is and prove that you don't like commercial music, then go over to austinarchermusic.bandcamp.com and buy a bunch of indie music by an indie artist and prove it. Prove it. That you don't like commercial music. Go put your money where your mouth is. In fact, go to patreon.com/Austin Archer and check me out on Patreon. Okay? check it out. Because one thing that you don't know is that there's actually bonus content from this episode that only the TikTok live stream and the Patreon people are going to see. I'm going to cut out certain parts of this episode, and they're only going to be on Patreon. So if you want the bonus Patreon content from this episode, you've got to go to patreon.com/AustinArcher. That's what you got to do. You have no choice. That's what you have to do if you want to get that bonus content. And so far, there have been people who have been subscribing just for the bonus content, and they're commenting, "Oh, I'm so glad I did this. This bonus content was totally worth it," and it is. And shout out to the Patreon patrons. Love you so much. Hey, people on TikTok, I swear, they're getting rid of this app. So please follow me other places so that we can keep this thing going in 2025. That would be really cool. All right. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Love you so much. Bye-bye.